Welcome to Forest Chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we're talking with Richard Stein about being a scale modeller. Richard started scale modelling when he was 5, and throughout his life, he's scale modelled at various levels and in various aspects of scale modelling, different types of scale modelling. Welcome to Forest Chat, Richard.
Well, thank you for having me here. And thank you to all the people who are listening to us, because this is an opportunity to talk to more people than I get to in a normal day.
Yes, it's amazing you're talking to me, but more people will definitely listen to this. So
I can see them sitting just behind you, listening to see whether you're going to make any mistakes.
Don't worry, I'll remove all of the mistakes. Richard, you've done scale modelling for a few years now. What actually is scale modelling?
The best way to say scale modeling is to think of very, very small aspects of the world. Now, when I say scale modeling to some people, they think of an Airfix model airplane or a Hornby train or some other small transport item like that. But really, it's a lot more things than that. Scale modeling can be building a scale model room, a scale model house, a scale model of the desk and the chair you're sitting in, a human being, a battleship, an airplane flying in the sky, or an airplane that only flies on your bookshelf. It can be any aspect of the world that's been reduced down from major size. I like to call it the little world. Scale modeling for me is my entry into the little world, but there's lots of other doors that can open and enter into that little world.
Sounds like you could scale model anything.
Indeed, people do. Now, I build scale model aircraft, small ones, 1/72nd scale. They're just my thing. I enjoy doing them. But I've seen people building scale model houses that are really livable in if you are 2 inches high. You could go there and live your life in their house. It's perfect. It's got everything that a real house has got. I've seen people build trains that are perfect scale model trains that you could travel from here to Austerland back if they just lay the tiny little tracks. The little world can be anything. Humans, animals, places, dioramas, vehicles, anything you like. As soon as it gets small and you can get in there and build it, you're in the little world and you're scale modeling.
Your background has mainly been in aeroplanes, but we actually met through the WA scale modelers, and I've seen some other types of models through that forum on Facebook. And there's a display or an exhibition coming up as well, isn't there?
Yes. Now, we're recording something on the week before the exhibition. Can I do a bit of an advertisement?
You can do.
Yes.
This will go out Wednesday next week.
Good. Wednesday next week means that at the end of the week that people are listening to this, on the, is it 8th or 9th, I think, of August, Saturday and Sunday anyway, at the Cannington Showgrounds, the major exhibition for scale modelers for the year happens. When I say scale modelers, this will be for the plastic modelers, chaps that do what I do. It's at the Cannington Showgrounds, as I say, from 10 o'clock on to 4 o'clock on the Saturday and the Sunday. There's an immense display hall there that has dealers, it has clubs, it has layouts, it has exhibition things, and there's a second hall that has competition models laid out for people to see. Scale modeling can sometimes be terribly competitive. People want to have their model seen and appreciated by everybody else. So they build all year on the most magnificent results you've ever seen in your life, and they display them. That'll be on the week that we're listening to, the end of the week, Saturday and Sunday at Cannington Showground, WASMEX, WA Scale Model Exhibition. Doesn't cost you very much money to get in. You can be there all day. most of us are going to be there 2 days, showing off our models and looking at everybody else's.
So that's on Saturday the 9th and Sunday the 10th of August 2025.
Okay, good. You've got
in case you're listening to after that date, which is fine.
If you're listening to this podcast after the exhibition's over, don't despair. Because all during the year in Western Australia, here in Perth, there are exhibitions of different things. The miniaturists, who are the dollhouse ladies, they exhibit over in South Perth. The flying aircraft people go out to Whiteman Park and have open days there. The WA model railway people have a display at Bayswater and Ashfield, I think. Yeah, Ashfield and Bayswater. They also have a yearly exhibition that they put on down at the showgrounds. The model car people go to Cyril Jackson High School. Now, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait about a year before you have the model cars again. They've just had their exhibition, but you've never seen anything like it in your life. It's the most wonderful thing to see those model cars and model trucks in operation.
So there's a whole range of opportunities for people to get involved and have a look.
In all aspects, in all the metro area and in outer-lying areas too. There'll be something happening in Bunbury. There'll be something happening in Geraldton. There'll be something happening in Northam. Things happen here, there, and everywhere.
That's fantastic to hear. So I've got to focus on Australia. You talked about competitions. Is that and some people are very keen on the competition side of things. And this competition at WA Scale Model Expo is obviously for people who can get to that particular one. I imagine that if somebody wanted to, they could be competing anywhere in the world.
Yes, indeed. Here in Australia, there's people who go interstate to compete with scale models, not just with the plastic models, but with the flying models, the yachts, the dollhouses, everything else like that. And the transport is a major problem for some of them because a lot of these things are somewhat delicate. I shouldn't like to have to take scale models from Western Australia to Melbourne or to Sydney as part of an exhibition. It would frighten me every mile it went because it's a delicate thing. And how are you going to keep it? Unless you can't keep it in your lap on the airplane, how are you going to be sure it's safe? But they do. They get people from the eastern states come over here, show us marvelous results, and sometimes win competitions.
There's a whole other aspect to doing that side of things. What's the basis for the competition?
It's generally the skill level that's been shown with the model. The result at the end looking like the original thing that it was. If you have an aircraft, say, well, let's take an Australian aircraft, the Australian Hornet, the F-18, the fighter plane that the RAAF has. A chap named Kevin Williams builds FA-18 aircraft. He builds them for himself. He builds them for other people, particularly for airplane pilots who used to fly that aircraft. They'll commission him to build their aircraft. And the result that he builds has all the features that the original had. When I say features, it doesn't fly around. It doesn't have an engine inside whirring over. But the dirt and grime that accumulated on that aircraft during its service, the nicks, the bumps, the operating features of the canopy, etc., like that, Kevin will include those on there. And surprisingly enough, Kevin wins the competition for the aircraft because it's absolutely the best representation of that particular aircraft that could be had. And in his case, he will have someone who's commissioned him to make them their aircraft. He'll spend a year on it, and it'll be a competition winner. Now, you don't have to be a working modeler to have that happen. You can be a hobby modeler who's just building something for yourself, because there'll be somebody who builds a model of a figure. You'll be painting the figure of some famous person, Napoleon, etc., like that. And he'll spend literally months layering on different colors onto that model, different shades, being the artist that he is and end up with a competition entry and sometimes a competition winner. You don't have to be perfect sometimes, but you do have to be artistic.
In order to show that off in a competition sense.
Yes, yes. You're always showing it off to yourself. You're always looking at what you've done and admiring it. That's a given. But you're looking for other people to admire you as well.
Yeah, to admire your work. But you don't have to do that. That's obviously a part of the community building that goes on with scale modelers.
It's been stated by one of the experts, Phil Flory, that you model for yourself. Everybody has their own skill level, and you work to that skill level, and you please yourself with that skill level. And sometimes, by working at it hard enough, you go up a level or half a level, and you start to feel even more pleased with yourself as you go up.
Sounds like a great time to ask the next question, Richard. Richard, what does it take you to be a scale modeler?
I guess the best way to look at it is you have to be somebody who's willing to look down close at things. Just as a photographer might be a macro photographer or micro photographer who likes to look closely at things, so a scale modeler has to look closely at things. When you're looking closely at things, I don't mean to say that you have to look down your nose at something that's 3 inches away from you. You can be out in the open air looking closely at an earth mover. I went down to the place where they sell Komatsu tractors and things deliberately to look and see where the dirt goes on a tractor. Because sitting down trying to make the tractor you're making look dirty and put the stuff in the wrong place, everybody knows it's wrong. But as soon as you put the dirt in the right place, people know what they're seeing. And you only get that by going and looking carefully at what you've got. Sometimes we can't do it. It would be impossible for all of us to go and look at things that are long gone. Take the classic example of the German battleship Bismarck. That's gone. It's long gone. The Hood, the Bismarck, the Prince Eugen, everything is gone. But you can look at the photographs that were taken at a time. You can look at plans, look carefully at what you're seeing and relate it to real life. And then you can go ahead as a scale modeler. That's the first thing, the ability to look carefully. Second thing is the ability to make your hands do what you want them to do. Any scale model is going to involve small work, whether it's attaching things to each other, cutting things off of the supply mechanism, sanding things down, drilling. It's all tiny work. And when you get into the business of the painting at the end, it can be extremely tiny work. And you have to be able to make your hands respond the way you want to. The only way you're going to get them to do that is to get them to practice, make them do it over and over and over again. And I might add, by the way, for your listeners, when I say hands, don't feel bad if only one of yours works. One of the chaps in our club, I won't really say his name, only works on one wing because only one wing works. And he is the smartest man you've ever seen in getting his models into a position that he can work on them with his one skilled hand. And he turns out magnificent models without having the second helping. If you've got one or two hands, get to work and make those hands and those eyes that you've got work together. Make them see what they want to see, make them produce that same sort of thing in front of you, and bit by bit by bit, you'll go ahead and end up with a magnificent model.
But it does take the practice.
Yes. Oh, yes. You mentioned I was modeling since I was 5 years old. That was a surprise to me. A family disappointment. We couldn't go someplace. My father pulled out a scale model kit and we sat at the kitchen table and built it. I'd never seen them before. As a child, I'd seen toys, but I hadn't seen scale models. And as soon as I discovered that what was a toy could be put together from a kit, I guess a light went on inside my brain. And I thought, oh, I can do this too. We can do it more. And away we went. Now, you do you do need to practice, because you're not going to be very good to start with. Every kid knows the business of sticking together a plastic model where the glue goes everywhere. I should say cement, where the cement goes everywhere. Yeah, you're putting your hand up saying one for me. Every child, and mine were too, has got a model airplane where the canopy has a fingerprint in the middle of it. And it can be identified forever from that. And you're going to find as you go that you sometimes feel a little disappointed that your model doesn't look the way it looks like on the box or in the magazine. But as you go on, you get better and better and better. You learn how to put the cement on. You learn how to cut things off evenly. You learn how to sand. You learn how to align things. And as you're learning, your mind is learning in a three-dimensional way. You start to learn what, in my case, an airplane or a sailboat or a car actually looks like in small form. And then when you go out and look at the real one, you understand what you're seeing. It can go both ways, of course. You can see the real thing and then understand what the model is. But for many, many children, they encounter things in a small form, the little world, the model form first, and then that explains what they see in the large world.
Yeah, you get that with all sorts of things like matchbox cars and that sort of thing. The children have easy and economical access to them, and
Yes.
they build the concepts in their mind. And then when they go to a car show or they see the train on the train tracks or the ship in the port or that sort of thing, then they understand the difference and they just see how big things are in real life.
Yes. Well, every child starts off small. Things are small for a child. Their hands are small, their faces, their eyes, everything's small. And giving them a small world to deal with there gives them a little bit of power. If they have a small world of the dollhouse, the car, the airplane, the ship, every child can start to be part of the real world. Every kid I know, boy and girl, used to go out and play in the sand pit with the cars and the trucks and the earth movers, etc., like that. And we built all sorts of roads and houses and sand castles, etc., like that. We were making a little world for ourselves, and we were part of our little world. We took authority in our little world, and that helps us later as we get into the bigger world. We expand.
You talk about the ability to see and the ability to do things. Is there anything more that you want to say about what it takes?
There is, oh dear, I'm going to say this, there is a little bit of artistry in it. And then somebody will have to go off and say, what is artistry? And we're off into the woods. You get into no end of semantic troubles there. But there is a certain amount of artistry that you exert as you build your scale model. Somebody like Devin McWilliams, when he builds his scale model is very realistic, extremely realistic. And he's building for that realism with the weathering, the dirt, the lumps, the bumps, everything like that. And there's people who are specialists in that sort of artistry. Their things aren't just weather. Their things are broken to pieces. Their things are rotting in the bush. And every part of the old car that's breaking down inside of a garage is featured in their model. It's the most amazing thing to walk in visually in something that's the size of a bread box and discover that you're in a real little world. In the case of some of them, a real little world of decay and deterioration. That's one form of artistry. For an artist like me, I don't like that. I like to build my aircraft clean and neat with nice colors. Everything's fresh. It looks like it came out of the factory and it hasn't worn out yet. So there's a level of artistic determination that people have in the various things they do. Some modelers are sketch artists. They will make something that looks like the thing, but only from 5 feet away. That's the specialty of a lot of the model airplane makers who fly their aircraft. they're going to have to fly something that has to withstand more forces than a scale model table. So they make their model look good from 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet away. Other people, like myself, make ours look good from 1 foot away. And there are miniaturists who work in the model railway system where you can put your eye down an inch away from the model and be in a real life situation. They're that good at it.
That's incredible.
Artistry.
I'm really blown away by that level of detail that they can get to. It's pretty incredible.
In some cases, when you're looking at the level of detail that people put into their models, it is an extremely exciting thing to see. At other times, it discourages you because you look at your own affairs and think, oh my goodness, I'll never be able to do that. We have one chap in our club, Ian, who works in what they call photo etch brass. It's a way of making tiny parts that can be made out of brass, but without being molded by the scale manufacturers. You get a sheet of brass, you cut the thing out of it, you fold it up, and eventually you have a part that goes to the rest of your model. But the business of doing it can be, quite frankly, like brain surgery. It's work done with tweezers at the end of your hands, not breathing very much, and extremely, extremely detailed. Most of us think he's crazy, but he doesn't.
Yes. I've interviewed quite a few people, and a lot of people that I've interviewed, to regular people, they appear to be on the edge of craziness.
Oh, I hope we all are. I have my own manias, and so do other people, and we're having a great time with them.
Exactly. No one's disliking the fact that they're in those spaces.
Well, you're going to ask me a question later about what it does for the person and for the community. And that's where one of these answers comes.
That's a great segue, Richard, to our next question. Let's have a little break now. And after the break, we'll have a look at what it means. We've talked to Richard about scale modelling, and there's a lot to it and a lot of different ways you can approach it. We'll have a look now at what it means that Richard is able to do scale modelling. Richard, what does it mean to you, your family, or the community that you're able to scale model?
Okay, well, let's take that in order. To me, it means that I'm continuing something all my life that gave me great enjoyment as a child. And the enjoyment continued on and on and on it went. It gives me a connection through my whole life to something that is personally to me worthwhile. I don't have to give it away. I don't have to, what's the word I want? Quit doing it. I don't have to think. I can carry on all the time. And that's exactly what I'm doing. Now, to my family, what does it mean to my family? Well, I'm sure it meant to my mother and father, they knew where I was going to be, at the kitchen table, building a model airplane. I'm afraid sometimes in that case, it meant my mother was looking at me saying, could you please put it away? We're trying to have dinner, this kind of thing. But my family knew that it was an activity that was good for me, that I was getting better at, and that wasn't a bad influence on me. Well, that was my mother and my father. My wife and my daughter also know that I enjoy scale modeling. Bless their hearts, they give me things at holidays and birthdays to continue my scale modeling. So we're all in agreement with that. And it means that I've got an activity in my retirement that I can go to that gives me a great deal of pleasure here at home, not causing trouble, when I say not causing trouble, I can make trouble any place you like. But it's not a dangerous or difficult thing to deal with, scale modeling. The worst aspect of scale modeling for the family would be if I had a whole bunch of scale models that I wanted to display, and I would start putting them around the house, collecting dust, getting knocked off by the cat, etc., like that. If you are a scale modeler who builds large scale models, you're going to have to figure out how you deal with that, because everybody else is going to have to live with your results as well. Now, you ask about the community. What does the community get out of scale modeling? Well, heck, for our scale modeling club of Western Australia down at Miranda, we get 2 to 3 days per week of stimulating enjoyment with each other. We're talking about a room full of mostly retired men, but sometimes younger people, sometimes ladies come along with us. We're talking about people who've got a social event happening at least 3 times a week that they can share with each other. And it is a very, very open and very warm atmosphere. Being an Australian atmosphere, there's also a fair amount of bad language associated with it, but you have to take that as you get it. People are welcome into the clubs. And they find if they have any sort of enjoyment in scale modeling, they will find it in the club. They will find people doing everything, all the divisions of scale modeling that you could think of, from the trains to the planes to the boats to the cars to whatever. There'll be somebody around a table building that, and they will exchange information, exchange techniques, exchange parts, tools, etc., like that. It's a great, big, fun thing to have. For a singleton, for an individual who's in a position who can't meet other people for scale modeling, they still have the opportunity through the internet to see what the entire world is doing, to learn the very best ways to do things and the very worst ways to do things too. But they have a chance to look out at everybody else enjoying themselves, to do it themselves. And if they, like you, Paul, or like me, get a little bit of communication skill on the internet, they can send out what they're doing for lots of other people to see and enjoy a visual, virtual club on their internet. It's a chance to involve yourself with other people as much as any other club would be. People could go rowing or swimming or horse riding or anything else like that. And a lot of it is the involvement with the other people as well as the activity itself.
Yes, the activity is an excuse to get involved with other people.
For some people, that's exactly what it is. It does work the other way around. There are some people who involve themselves with other people to do the activity. It's unfortunately sometimes true that people can't get along with each other in clubs. The other part about that, though, is that there are so many different clubs that if you find that you really have personalities in one that you can't work with, there'll be another one you can go off to, and with a bit of luck, you will manage with the other ones. So if a person finds themselves in that situation, they should not give up. They should just look a little bit further down the car and see what they can find.
A case of finding your group, your team.
Yes. Oh, yes. There's somebody out there for everybody. This sounds very romantic, I know, but there's somebody out there in scale modeling for everybody. It might only be on the internet, but it might be well and truly in person at a club 3 times a week with 20 other people there, drinking coffee, eating cake, dropping things on the floor and having to look for them, and etc. like that. Go out and look, because the people who are out there in the clubs are delighted to have you come out and have a look. They are looking for new people to join them, as much for the activity as for the social things like that. And they will be like ones at the scale model exhibition. They'll be talking as hard as they can to get people to come and join them.
And they're good people to join.
Yes, yeah. The club that we operate in has a formal constitution set up with the state government and the entire schmozzle that you run with that. Treasury, annual general meeting, It has a constitution that has a provision for everybody to come in. There are no restrictions to come in there. And it has arrangements that people have to be decent to each other when they're there. In our club, we don't allow alcohol or drugs to come into the club at all. We don't allow difficult people who might be causing trouble to come in to see us. But it has to be pretty darn difficult. It has to be police difficult to keep people out.
And that sounds like a fair call, because a number of the things that I've been talking about, the previous episode, my wife interviewed me about car rallying, and there's definitely there was a need for me to have competition in my life. And I chose to do that through motorsport, initially on motorbikes and then later in rally cars. And
did you survive?
Nearly. I could point at all the places that have got issues from all of that. I'm still here, and I've had about 8 weeks off when the doctor said maybe I shouldn't go back to work yet. So I've had a great time, but there was definitely a need for me to get that competition in my life to actually achieve that. And even yesterday, I did an interview about they want to ban dogs on some of the beaches in Bustleton. So I had a chat to a person about that. And dogs have got the same thing, if you don't give them the chance to run around and blow off the steam, then they're going to cause other nuisance effects because they haven't got the right thing happening in their life. And it could be some of those difficult people just need to have something that allows them to have a focus or an outlet that can alleviate a lot of those other issues that some people might have had.
Well, Paul, I've heard it said that there are a number of things that everybody's got inside that they want satisfied. One is a desire to build things, right? One is a desire to collect things. One is a desire for physical activity where you're playing and doing something. And one is a desire for social activity. Now, I don't know whether you get that much playing or physical activity or winning with scale modeling, but you do get the competitiveness of winning at an exhibition, if you get that. And all of those 4 things are very well catered for in scale modeling. You're building all right. I'm collecting. I've got 200 to 300 scale model airplanes. I don't go into the competitions, but I do appreciate people do enjoy those competitions like that. And the social part of it, well, like I say, 3 times a week and away you go. You have a grand time of it.
Fantastic. So, Richard, we've talked about what it means, and there's a lot of good that comes from doing scale modelling. And in fact, a lot of the things that people look for in life are covered by scale modelling. We'll have a break now, and after the break, we'll have a look at how you do it. We've had a look at what it means that Richard is able to build scale models. Now, let's have a look at how you do it. Richard, if somebody wanted to get into scale modelling, how would they go about it?
I would initially advise somebody to go to a model shop. Here in Perth, we've got 6 to 8 of them at any one time, and they're scattered around the suburbs. There's one in town, but they're scattered mostly around the suburbs. They do find themselves catering for different audiences in the scale model shops. One will be good on flying airplanes. One will be good on doll houses. One will be good on plastic models, but they all have some of the same things in those model shops. I regularly call into about 4 of them for different things I need. Anyway, here's your first chance for something. Somebody says, I want to start scale modeling, and he goes into the hobby shop. Go down the hobby shop, down the racks of wonderful things they have for sale, down towards the back, and look for the kits that are beginners kits. A number of the manufacturers, Revell, Airfix, Heller, etc. like that, have produced kits that are simple enough to build if you're just starting, but they also provide you with a paintbrush, a little bit of cement, and sometimes with the paints required for the model to be completed. It's not a complete thing for you, but it's a pretty darn good start for it. And it gives you the things you need on your model in front of you. Well, then you're going to have to get yourself some way to cut your finger. And I say that deliberately because every modeler who's got 10 fingers has got scars on all of them. You're going to need a sharp little knife to cut things away from your scale modeling and eventually to cut your own thumb. So there'll be another section in the hobby shop that has tools. And again, let the manufacturers be good to you. There'll be a packet there that has cement, sanding sticks, and a sharp knife. Now, the cement and the sanding sticks are fairly innocuous. The sharp knife will cut you. So you got to be prepared for that. And if you're buying it for your kids, know that eventually they're going to come up to you holding a bloodied finger, and you're going to have to repair them. Okay, armed with a starter's kit, armed with a starter's toolkit, you literally have pretty much everything you need to go with, except a space to do it in. Now, I used to do it on the kitchen table and be shoved off every time a meal came through. I now live inside a house where I've got my very own hobby room. I've got my very own hobby bench set up and all the stuff I want there, and I can come and do things without having to pick up and pack up. Some people can't do that. They do have to pick up and pack up every time they're working. In any case, you've got yourself a kit, you've got some tools, you've got a fair flat space to work with, and a reasonably good light. Doesn't have to be perfect, but get yourself something so that you can see what you're doing. It's no good modeling in a broom closet. Away you go. Open the model kit, open the instructions, see what the manufacturer thinks you should start doing first, and start to do it. Cut the part off of the supply tree, the sprue tree as we call it. Cut the part off, sand it until it's got an even little spot. So the spot you cut off disappears, you sanded it, and you have your first piece of your model. It'll have to go on to a second piece, so back to your instructions and see where it goes. And gradually, bit by bit by bit, following the instructions, you can build yourself up in doing it. The better manufacturers will give you a set of instructions that go from the very simple to the more complex as you go through there. Some of them will do it by writing for you, glue part A to part B. Some of them will only do it by using a diagram. They will show part A and part B going together with a little symbol of a glue bottle. And you eventually learn that's what they want you to do in that. And gradually you go on bit by bit by bit by bit. At some stage of the game, they may suggest to you to paint something. They'll tell you what color, red, blue, black, etc. like that. Well, here's where you start to learn how to work with model paints. You mix them up, you thin them down perhaps, you put them on your brush, you learn what happens when the brush goes onto the model, what paint does when you're putting it on. It's a bit different than doing a wall, by the way. And as you go on, you're going to get more and more skills going into your brain from what you're doing down at the end of your fingers. Not all the things you do will be right. Not all the things you do will look as good as they do in the instruction sheet. But as you do them, ping, 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 you're going to be building up part of the little world until at the end, you're going to end up with a finished scale model. Okay, that's the best way I can say it. Follow the instructions. Even sometimes when the instructions are hard to follow, they're helping you because they're making you decipher what somebody wants to say. A lot of those instructions go out to places in the world where people don't speak English. They speak lots of other languages. So the instructions will have lots of other languages with them. But sometimes they go to people who don't even get a chance to take a written instruction from them. That's where the diagram shows you what they want you to do. to put it together.
In some ways, it's a little bit like Lego. If you're dealing with kids who've got Lego, they often have a similar type of instructions that are easy enough to follow just by looking at what it is and working out what you've got and matching them up.
It's a marvelous skill on the part of the manufacturers to be able to communicate an idea in 3 dimensions on a sheet of paper. Some of them can do it very well. Some of them can't do it very well. We particularly curse a number of Eastern European manufacturers who do wonderful kits, but whose instruction sheets are vague. They know what they mean, but we don't. So we find ourselves sometimes looking at the instruction sheet, then looking at the internet, then looking at all the reference books we can to see if part A really does go on part B. Sometimes we find it doesn't. Sometimes we find that the person who made the instruction sheet didn't quite understand how something works. And you find yourself correcting that flaw, but that's rare. Most times the manufacturers come up with a very logical, good way to do it, and they'll tell you.
And what's on your building board at the moment, Richard?
Currently, I'm building an Airfix kit, one of the Airfix vintage classics. They used to make kits of lots of things and kept their molds so that years later, in this case, about 60 years later, they could reissue the kit and call it a vintage classic. And you can build something that you might have built in 1960, but you can build it now. So I am building a Bristol air freighter. It's called a Bristol 170. The British used to fly them for the Royal Air Force. They used to fly from England to France and to Belgium as an air ferry for cars. People with the car in Britain fly it over to France and then drive throughout the continent and then do the same thing coming back. I have built one of those as a memory for my wife who used to travel aboard them, but I'm building a new one as a Royal Canadian Air Force transport. They had them as well. So I'll be having the bright silver and white with the lightning flash down the side of the Royal Canadian Air Force.
Sounds like a great project. Well, thank you very much, Richard, for being on Forest.chat. It's been fascinating talking about building small worlds, and all Forest.chat listeners wish you all the best with your future endeavours.
Well, thank you very much. The main thing is I hope I don't glue myself to the bench yet again.
I'm sure you've got some acetone or something there to sort that out.
Ah, dear. The number of times you put your elbow down and find it won't come up again.
You've been listening to Forest.chat, where we talk about individual endeavour in Western Australia, what it takes, what it means, and how you do it. I'm your host, Paul Vandermeer, and in today's episode, we've been talking with Richard Stein about scale modelling. Remember, there are 4 ways to get involved with Forest.chat. Go to Forest.chat to subscribe to the emails and find out about all the episodes as they come up. If you want to listen to the episodes, go to forest.chat/episodes. If you do something interesting and would like to be a guest on Forest.chat, go to forest.chat/interview. If you want to support a small business, go to forest.chat/advert. I'm looking forward to joining you with our next guest. Until then, enjoy making it happen.